All right. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining us for today's webinar. Today, the 27th of March, we are going to be joined by two of our long-term friends. That is Mugabe John and Fumilani Majozi. And our focus today is going to be still on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And our topic is going to be focusing on the youth and women. And basically, our question really today is all about whether the AfTA is the world's most youth and women-friendly trade agreement. So majorly, when you look at the African business context, you realize that mostly youth and women have been left out, even when they make the most or the largest part of the African population. We majorly, I'm including myself in the youth bracket, mostly are in charge of most small and medium enterprises. And it's a good thing that the Africa recognizes the importance of women and youth in terms of realizing the dream that is driving prosperity for the African population. And yeah, that's why we saw it fit that today we focused on trying to understand the African Continental Free Trade Area agreement, and in terms of how much that argument is inclusive of the youth and women. Yeah, so I'm going to start by introducing our two speakers today who joined us. I'm going to begin with Mugabe John, who is an advocate of enterprise and prosperity in Uganda. Mugabe John has inspired the growth of Students for Liberty in Uganda with many activities in universities around the country. He is also the founder and director of Action for Liberty and Economic Development, or LED. John is part of the board of Entebbe Municipal Development Forum, that is in Uganda, and he is also a researcher and a policy analyst at Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry Entebbe. He is also the chair of Uganda Free Trade Reform Commission. So welcome, Mugabe, and yeah, feel free to share your thoughts and opinions with us. Our second speaker today is Fumilani Majozi, all the way from South Africa, and he is a business and microeconomics analyst, a writer and a commentator on economic and political issues. His writings have been published in the City Press, Biz News, African Liberty, and Politics Web. He is also a commentator to News 24, which is South Africa's leading news website. He is also an economics contributor to South Africa's Chai FM. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, I'm just going to go straight into it, and begin with Fumilani. Do you think, that the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is the world's most youth and women friendly agreement?
Thank you so much. It's great to be here to join this very important discussion that we as Africans, have to undertake. I think it's one of it may be the most important sort of socio-economic discussion in Africa since the end of the Cold War, because this is very significant. When you have about 54 countries really getting into the free trade agreement and trying to reshape their continent, it's something that is very, very big. I strongly believe that this is the opportunity for Africa, that this initiative, of this free trade agreement, it's a big step for Africans forward. Now, the fundamental question, because yes, the plan may exist, the agreement may do exist. Now, the question is, what are we going to do to ensure that we get as much gains as possible? That's a very sort of big question for Africans, at the moment, because remember that it's estimated that from the benefits we could have a gross sort of products that could be valued at $3.4 trillion, right? That should be the gross sort of product out of that deal or that free trade agreement. But again, I've said this before, that those estimates on what the benefits could be are only dependent on the policy actions that we take internally in Africa to ensure that we create an environment where the young people, which is what this discussion is about, where the young people, they have greater opportunities in terms of employment, they have greater opportunities in terms of entrepreneurship, because we need to create a culture where we are not saying, well, our culture must be, how do we think about being sort of job creators than being people who are employed? How do we individuals in Africa become job creators? How do we have that entrepreneurial sort of mindset? If we can drive the thinking in Africa, that is not only about for a young person to study from high school or from school level to varsity, and then they go look for work. You can go from high school from school to varsity or university, and then you can start your business. So that's how we need to think about when it comes to how do we reshape our culture in the continent to a culture that really sort of advances economic prosperity. And so those two things are very important, that we create an environment where young people are really sort of the very much a beneficiary of this agreement. And remember, Africa is the youngest continent in the world, right? When it comes to the age average, Africa is a very young continent. And it's a continent whose population over the next 50 years is projected to rise, right? In contrast to other populations in other regions around the world. So that again is an opportunity, that we have a younger population, that you have a population that's going to rise. Now, of course, the key challenge is to how do you sort of make sure that that rise is also accompanied by sort of the economic forces that can ensure that economic growth, economic prosperity sort of aligns, or is it sort of in sync with that population growth. Because we don't want to have a situation where we have in South Africa at the moment, where we have economic growth basically underperforming population growth. In other words, population growth is higher than the economic growth. So, I mean, that's a problem, because really we're going to have a situation where people are becoming poorer, right? Because economic growth cannot catch up to population growth. So this agreement is a big opportunity. But your specific question was, is it a youth-friendly, sort of women-friendly agreement? I would argue that it is, at least at this point, at least ideal, right? Now, the greatest beneficiary or the bigger challenge will come within individual countries. We have to ensure that they put in policies from a regulatory perspective, from taxes perspective, from various sort of policy aspects that will ensure that the young people, they have enough skills, and women, they have enough skills, they do get the critical skills and opportunities to participate productively in African markets, and therefore contribute towards the exchange of goods and services, or the economic exchange of goods and services between the African countries. So this is, at this point, as an idea, very much something that is very much friendly, even when we look at the specifics. But then the key thing that our our leaders within individual countries will have to get is really looking at how do they reform the policies to be more pro-growth and pro-youth and opportunities that can be available for young people and women, in each and every country in the continent.
Yeah, thank you so much for those insights. John, I don't know whether John, you can hear me, Mugabe?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So what we are getting from Lani is that we have an agreement, which is potentially, can do a lot in terms of being inclusive to youth and women in trade and investment. And that's I want to really get your opinion really on whether the agreement really recognizes the important role of youth and women in Africa's economic development.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mwoki. First of all, I'm so grateful for Liberty Spark for continuing to put efforts to see that we maximize the benefits of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is a legal instrument which has been put in place to see that, first of all, we build a common market and then we harness all the opportunities which comes with the common market. Yeah, I'm so grateful that our discussion becomes part of the effort to see that the young people who make the big percentage of Africa are able to maximize the benefits. And this makes part of our effort to see that this agreement is able to change the trajectory of Africa in terms of the welfare of the people, and also in terms of employment for the youth who make the percentage that Pumulana has said. If you look at the research, African, where the average age or the median age is 19.8, according to Brooklyn, and that makes Africa one of the youngest, or if not the youngest continent in the world. And we also know that by 2030 to 50, Africa will make a quarter of the world population. All that looks at the young people we have and the women. And we should also put it into account that in 2018, according to McKinsey, the women were contributing 33% of the African GDP. So we know very well that the women are making a very, very big importance, and they're also making a very great stride as far as trade is concerned. But we should also look at the SMEs, which in different individual countries which are party to this agreement are still having barriers when it comes to trade goods beyond borders. But having this agreement in place does not make it Africa, does not make it beneficial at the moment, and does not maximize all the potential which is at stake in Africa or in different countries, because it still depends on how the policy implementers in different African states are able to make it move beyond the paper or the instrument which is in place. How does this become practical? I would like to go local, that at a moment when I was sharing the link for many people to attend, most of the young people, because we have the young chambers here, the Young Chambers Club, we have also the Chamber of Commerce Business Group, and also the women. If you could see most of the people who at least understood what this agreement means, these are young people, but elite, who are able to see what is happening across the borders, and also who are able to understand the language which is put in this paper. But the other youth in the formal sector, they don't understand the language, but if the policy, if this agreement is implemented, they could understand the benefits. Because now when it comes to trade, I would like to give you an example that last year when I was traveling to Kenya to meet Pumulani and Evans in one of the conference, I happened to use a bus when I was going, and I wanted to find out how the young people who are carrying out trade in Kenya, they buy goods in Kenya, come and sell it in Kampala, the challenges they find. One, we had an appreciation of the current regime, the change in the regime in Kenya, because we had a lot of barriers when we are trading between Uganda and Kenya. You could see that the taxes were high, and then also there was stringent policies which were aiming by Kenyan government to protect the traders in Kenya and also to protect the farmers. So it was a bit hard for the young person who is trading, someone who is selling some, I would say 1 ton of maize flat to Kenya. It was hard for this young person to process all the papers, but also to penetrate to the bigger market, which is very, very fruitful and profitable, as we know that Kenya needs more and more food because of the population in the north and also the drought. So it was going to be an opportunity to the young people in Uganda who are in agriculture. So as we are moving, I discussed with them the African Continental Free Trade, and I said, this is a silver bullet you have in your hand. But they were able to even analyze and also give the practical examples of what they face when they are crossing border, more than what I thought. Because me as an advocate, I was doing advocacy at the high end, and always the Minister of Trade in Uganda and also those who in Kenya, they were telling us, yeah, our youth are doing very well. Uganda, you are able to sell maize, you are able to sell eggs. But in practice, we still had these barriers on border. And I appreciate the regime in Kenya, which when Ruto came, at least as Ugandan, we appreciate some of the embargoes and some of the trade barriers started reducing, because the regime believed that we can get free goods, I think cheaper milk from Uganda, and then we utilize it in Kenya, and then we use our Kenyan milk to add value and then sell it to Zambia and others. So it opened a way for the young people, at least, to see that they do that. But I would also like to say that I cannot say that it's the greatest opportunity at the moment, but it has potential to become the greatest opportunity to the women, to the youth. But it also requires us as advocates to, wherever we are in our different countries, to make our leaders accountable, because the implementation, it belongs to the political leaders, and most of the political leaders who were part of the ratification of this agreement, the average age is 55 years, and some of them, their major aim is to stay in power. How do we stay in power? So playing within their games, we have to be able to tell them that they can stay in power if the youth have a lot of opportunities and they are not going to be on street to disturb them, like what we are seeing right now in Kenya, because many are unemployed. They cannot get the food on the plate. So they are becoming a problem to these political leaders. So this should be a solution to them, to say that they harness this legal instrument so that it can be able to give all these fruits to the women and the young people. So that's what I think.
Okay,
Just
thank you so much.
A quick point to add to what John is saying. I think just before he finished, he mentioned unemployment, and that's it's a big challenge. The lack of jobs in South Africa. Our unemployment rates are very shocking. In fact, when you look at the major emerging markets, South Africa's unemployment rate is the highest, right? And guess who accounts for the majority? And by majority, I'm talking about about almost 75% of the people unemployed. You know, it's young people. So I mean, how do you, we have to start resolving such issues. And then we are going to talk about how can young people participate productively in the, in this big, very significant trade agreement in our continent. So the unemployment rate is really a sort of something very, very damaging, because when young people don't have jobs and then they become, very much hopeless, and it becomes a counter sort of productive issue that slows down Africa's progress. So job creation will be very much significant. And again, it comes back to what I was saying, that, you have to, individual countries will need to look at how they deal with the unemployment rates. Yes, the free trade agreement is going to help, by the way, even to reduce that unemployment rate. But still, though, even right now, we need to address the challenge. So at least we put in the environment that can be conducive to the reduction of youth unemployment, which is really a crisis in many African countries, including South Africa, where it's just shocking the amount of young people who are jobless. Not only jobless, but also aren't really sort of running a business of some sort to sell and trade if you cannot be employed by someone. So it's really a fundamental problem that we need to address and ensure that their conditions on the ground are really put, are really sort of, that we invest in them.
Okay, thank you so much. I like what how Mugabe described, the AfCFTA as potentially being a silver bullet. And one thing that the three of us are agreeing on is the fact that the burden of the implementation of the Africa Free Trade Agreement really rests with the individual countries, and in terms of they approach the implementation in terms of policies and so on. And that's why from Lani, that's why I want to get insights from you of what do these individual African countries have to do, to enhance or rather ensure a greater economic inclusion and opportunities for the youth and women entrepreneurs in Africa. And briefly, and John also, I think when Fumlani is done, you can also respond to the same question, because now we already have a framework that is promising, but how do we move from there? How do we ensure that the youth and women are really included in the economic development of this continent? Fumlani.
Well, I think the first thing that individual countries must do is to take the agreement seriously. That's the first step. Commit to the agreement, initiate the processes to be fully engaged in the agreement, to fully trade in the agreement. So that's the first thing they have to do. The second one is to look at the issues of corruption. In my country, South Africa, corruption is really one of the very big problems that we face, we continue to face, and it doesn't seem to be something that is being reduced. Partly because of the failure of our state or the government to put in the mechanisms to create the frameworks to counter corruption. So there has been much of in recent years, much of failure from our government. So corruption has to be sort of, tackled robustly by all the elements within individual countries in our continent. So that would be the first thing. The second one is very much having to do with an investment in these groups that we are talking about today. And this is the youth, women, how do you, invest in their skills and educational development, in their human capital, to be able to come into the market and be competitive, right? I strongly believe that the role of government in any country around the world, it doesn't matter whether it's an African country, South Africa, or Uganda, or China, or USA, or somewhere in Europe, the role of government must not be to be the supply of goods and services. The market must do that. The state must create an environment that is conducive for people to come up with ideas, to be innovative, to supply the goods and services that the specific or the particular economy needs. And where the government can play the role is, of course, making sure the environment is conducive, but what it can do is to sort of invest in the human capital of young people, right? Making sure that they are being trained, they get decent education, they become well equipped to be, to participate productively in the market. So that should be, the second thing that should need to be done. And then the third one, of course, is around the structural, socio-economic reforms, right? What do I mean by structural? I'm talking about tax policy. You've got to reform your policy, your tax policy, so that you really are in a situation where you can attract investment, you can attract more business growth, you can attract, people being able to participate productively, to buy and sell goods in the market without having to face the burden of very high taxes. So you've got to have a very good tax policy that is really conducive to investment growth. When you look at Mauritius, they are very much good in what they have done is to have this flat tax rate sort of that they've put in place, where they charge the same rate, whether it's a corporate or an individual. And I think it's below 20% last time. Don't quote me on that. I think it's below 20%. Would need to verify the statistics. But what they've done is that they're encouraging investors to come in, right? So because taxes aren't that high, they are creating an environment where you can see, they're going to have investors coming in to invest, to create jobs, to grow business. So that would be very much important to do when it comes to tax policy. So that's one thing we have to get right. Another one, so now with the third one now, will be around how to deal with, right now as we speak, I was in another media show recently where we were talking about the energy crisis in sub-Saharan Africa. South Africa have been experiencing blackouts, partly again because the market over years in South Africa has never been reformed to allow for a competitive market. We've always had one monopoly, government-owned company supplying electricity, and that's a problem. So we have to create those markets to be able to ensure that we're in a situation where our energy problems are addressed, right? So we've got to do all those things I have mentioned. We also have to tackle the labor market reforms. In South Africa, when you look at the labor market, it's very much rigid, right? I think there was one American president, if I'm not mistaken, who once said, you've got to make it easy. Hiring and firing of an employee must both be easy, right? You shouldn't make it both of it difficult, where it's difficult to hire a person, but then when you've hired them, it's difficult to get rid of them, to fire them at some point. And in South Africa, we have a labor market that is very much, I would argue, rigged against employers heavily, in the sense that getting rid of someone after you've hired the person, they have been working for you, you are really going to get into trouble. It's also dominated by labor unions. We've put in over the past 30 years of our democracy more and more regulations in the effort to stop exploitation of workers, or slave wage use, as some people say. So all those things have been sort of counterproductive as our unemployment rate continues to skyrocket. So all those four things that I have mentioned to you could be the things that African countries really sort of tackle, to be able to allow for opportunities for young people and women as well, so they participate in the market productively.
Okay, thank you. Mugabe, shortly, maybe 3 minutes, respond to your input on the same question.
Yeah, thank you very much. As Mulana has said, I just also want to just add something little. As I've said that as the youth being making the big percentage, but also not being able to access the wider market. If we are going to be able to make the instrument very useful to the youth, I also think we need to do this thing. We must first of all be able to help the young people who are in business to scale up their businesses. I would give you an example in Uganda. If you look at the young people, men are doing businesses, but their businesses are still in a formal sector. They are not registered, and they are in the tune of business for survival, working for day-to-day food, and yet they have a very big potential. So if the youth still occupy the big percentage in the informal sector, then it will become a challenge for them to benefit from this kind of instrument, which requires you to have to access the market, which is beyond your town, your village, and your country. How do we do that? We need to be able to encourage these businesses to be able, first of all, to get incorporated, to register, to have a license. And also we must make sure it is very easy for them, not hard, but also not easy to duplicate, but easy for them to get the legal licenses. It shouldn't be hard, which when it becomes hard, it becomes now something to encourage corruption and bribery. And also, I believe we should also be able to encourage the young people to utilize the internet very well. If we talk about the access to the market, the internet in Africa has brought the market very near. But still, we have very many young people who are not able to market their goods digitally because the internet in their country is still very expensive and it is still slow. And others, for example, like in Uganda, we're still not allowed to access Facebook. We are accessing it through the use of VPN. And that kind of restriction makes it hard for the young people to exploit and harness the opportunities which this agreement is coming in. So I'm one person who believes internet should be made affordable and should be made a right to many young people if we are going to utilize this, not to be like in Uganda where it's very hard, it's limited. Then I would also like to say that we need, because we know the big percentage of the young people in Africa have been able to make startups, have been able to be in creative industry. So we need to encourage the young people to also be, I would call it mobility, to be able to, first of all, be able to move beyond their villages. We have a trip to Kenya, if all goes well and Kenya stabilizes, this coming month on 23rd. But every young person is excited to move. They have registered to move and find new market and also see what they can sell in Kenya. But it is very expensive, just using a bus. It is very expensive to move from Kampala, Entebbe to Kenya. And you find that it is the capital of the young people who are in business, that the trip from Kampala to Kenya and coming back, it's going to take all the capital which this young person is having. So we must also be able to make the mobility between cities and countries across the border very easy. It will give an advantage to the young people to be able to take their goods and also their services to the other side of the country or the other side of in the region and be able to harness and get at least these jobs, create their own jobs. And lastly, we need also to be able, for example, I would tell you this more working. One of the great failure we are still having and carrying on is with the free market think tank being able to share the research in terms of market. What is selling in Kenya, what is selling in Tanzania, and what is selling in Uganda. If we happen, we as the free market think tank, to be able also to look into how we can help trade or facilitate trade, through knowledge and this information we can put and research, then we shall be able to make this instrument work very well. But if we remain fighting in only understanding the market in our country, we are going to do a disservice to our population in Uganda, because they will see me discussing with Moloki, discussing with Evans, but we shall not be able to tell them what can we sell to Evans and what can Evans sell to me. So I believe that we should also be our strategy as the free market think tank in the region, as a way of making this instrument useful and practical to the young people. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, John. I think that that's a very good challenge to the free market think tanks that are cropping up and continuing to grow in Africa. So let me say thank you to our attendees, or rather listeners who have joined us today. I can see guys from South Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria. Thanks so much, Lilian, for joining us. Yeah, so in case you joined us late, this webinar is going to be available for you on YouTube as soon as we are done. So don't worry, if you missed anything, you'll be able to catch up on that. Also, remember, at the moment, Liberty Sparks is running a program on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, where we are trying to have conversations as much as possible to create awareness around the framework. Also, encouraging a lot of research and writing. Currently, we are publishing a lot of op-ed articles on our website, libertysparks.org. So yeah, take some time. Feel free to visit our website and check what we are doing, and yeah, try to, and we will be happy really to receive your contributions, your articles, and be able to publish them on our website and share with our partners and other like-minded organizations across Africa and beyond. So thank you so much for joining us and taking your time to be with us as we try to understand, how friendly the AfCFTA is when it comes to the inclusion of women and youth in Africa's development agenda. Now, Mugambi, I think I'll come back to you, John. I've been following a lot what you're doing with women and youth in Uganda, and my question really is: do women and youth, understand, or rather, number one, do they know that we have this framework, this agreement that we are calling the Continental Free Trade Area? Number two, do they understand what it's all about? Do they understand what the promise of this framework when it comes to their inclusion is? Yeah. So what is the feel? What is the feel on the ground in terms of the youth, and women understanding what this organization, or rather this trade agreement is all about? Briefly, please, in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I would like to say that there are a lot of efforts from many organizations and also the Ministry of Trade in Uganda to see that the agreement is understood by the youth, but it's also for the young people, women and others be able to utilize it. But I would like to say that it is still a challenge to us and very many promoters of this African Continental Free Trade Area to localize the message and also to be understood by the Mama Wamboga and also the Wanayinchi down. It's still a challenge. We were looking at last year, I think we happened to count about 46 conferences, all of them talking about Continental Free Trade Area. But all these 46 events which we counted as our organization, they were in conference room, the 5-star hotels, and they were all broadcasted on the media, but most so the media which are in official language here which is not the local language. So it's still a challenge for us to be able to go to the young people, tell them and try. But the best way for these people to understand it is, first of all, to try to work with them and see what challenges are they facing when they try to take goods to Kenya. So they can, the best way it will be making them to understand it practically, not speaking so much on the conference and others, but as we popularize this, we must also be able to see which challenges are they getting, and we must move with them to be able to keep all that data. From there, we can be able to tell them that, you know why, when you take, you go to trade with a lot of money to Nairobi, you come back with almost nothing. But also when you sell goods, you start making profit, you see that you have spent the bigger to the border and all these roadblocks you still find on the way. So I believe they can understand that. But I would like to say that working with the Chamber of Commerce, we've been able to reach this small and medium enterprises, which have been selling, some of them, they are selling goods across the border, for example, maize, and others are also buying clothes, because they know in Nairobi there is a market where at least this clothes and also other type of linen are very cheaper. So they know that information, but still they tell you that there is a big challenge. The trading is still becoming hard because of that. Then also, I would like to say that the political will at all levels, starting from the grassroots, must be there. But the reason why it's not there, because the councillors, the member of parliament, and also different regional leaders have not yet been fully understanding what this is in terms of creating opportunities for their cities and their constituencies. We must be able to tell them that there are invisible jobs right now, potential jobs which have not yet been created because we are not able to sell goods and services across the border. But I would like to appreciate that there are a lot of efforts I see in our country and I see in the region, Liberty Spark and other think tanks around Africa which are doing. But by Uganda, we still have to put in more efforts to see that the grassroots businesses are able to understand it, and more so the youth, because we want to see, I would end with this. I have seen young people demonstrating in Kenya today, but they are agitating government to create jobs for them. They are not telling government to remove these barriers. All of them are saying we need jobs, we need food from our plate. They are not telling them that Uganda has a lot of maize. If it is easy to let it enter Kenya, we shall have cheaper food, and all of us we shall be. So I'm waiting to see how can we also see demonstration based with the policies which are affecting, which are trying to address the policies which are affecting and which are causing these same problems every now and then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to our attendees. Please, to our listeners, if you have any questions or concerns for myself or any of our speakers, please feel free to comment in the chat session or other box, and I'll be able to see that and float it to our speakers to respond. Now, I'm moving on to Funlani, if you're still with us and you can hear me. There's what you're getting from John is that we are making a lot of efforts, in terms of the youth and women understanding what the AfCFTA is all about. But mostly we are still seeing a lot of these conversations still in conference rooms and boardrooms. So what is the best approach, for government and especially maybe free markets think tanks like ourselves? And how best do we get the conversation on the AfCFTA out of boardrooms and conference rooms, to try to focus on, youth and women who are running small, medium enterprises, to try to understand this framework and to understand how they can take advantage the framework, to grow their businesses and to move further towards economic prosperity. Umlani, you can hear me.
Yeah, thank you so much for your very good question. Now, this is a very tough one, because yes, an idea does exist, but then how do you make the citizens aware, that it does exist and that they should take opportunities to exploit that initiative. I strongly believe here that yes, conferences are good, but usually conferences the sort of elite people who are already more informed, who are closer to the information. The whole discussion does not go out there in South Africa, our townships, right? That are many across the country, in the rural areas, because we've got to create an environment even in the rural areas where that is conducive to business. You see, this idea that you can only succeed and you should think about starting a business if you are very close to a big city, or just living in a city or very much nearby a city. I think we need to change the structure, right? And say, how do we create an environment where even in the rural areas, you can have a very much successful business productivity taking place, where people are working, where people are producing and selling in the markets. So we've got to create such an environment. And I think when it comes to this free trade agreement, my honest view is that there hasn't been a stronger drive from our leaders in the African continent to push it, to spread the word, right? Partly because there are still various issues, let's remember, that are still being discussed when it comes to the specifics of the agreement. There are still issues that being debated as to how they will be structured, how they are going to work. But I think even though there are those issues, there's got to be a stronger drive to really promote this idea across our countries. And the government can play a big role in that, where the government really starts mobilize and then start campaigns to say, here's the free trade agreement. We are going to put in an environment, create an environment conducive for your businesses to grow and thrive, and we're going to commit to that so that you can be a participant in this agreement, right? So that approach from our leaders is a miss, right? Now that's just government, but also as well, I am not seeing it as someone who's very much in the corporate world, and I've been working there since I started out of my college university years. I'm not also seeing that drive even from the private sector, specifically in South Africa, right? I work in banking, and I work in one of the very big banks, but I'm not seeing that, that push by the private sector. So there's a lack also there to really create a stronger drive and an initiative to push to inform the people about the benefits or the meaning of the free trade agreement for Africa. So I think those two things are a miss, both from the private sector and the public sector. More work needs to be done, is my point.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's good that you brought the private sector into this conversation, because we've already looked at what individual governments, have to do. We've already looked at what the civil society, free markets think tanks like ourselves can do. And right now, I want to jump into what this private sector.
And by the way, Morgan, before you continue, sorry to disturb you. Even you mentioned the civil society, NGOs, right, think tanks, and so on.
Yeah.
This you could, if you have a think tank in one of the countries in Africa, you could make this a very big initiative where you assign a researcher, you assign the staff, you create a division to say, focus on this matter, do research, create awareness, focus on making this really something that gains traction in that country, right? So even the think tanks will be critical, and they must sort of think about how they can push for this free trade agreement that will benefit Africans. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, John. I don't know whether you can hear me. Really, I want to know whether with the lead we have something on the pipeline concerning the free trade area agreement. Do we expect lead to be doing something on that? And maybe as you wind up, you can share your thoughts on what you think the private sector can do and contribute to this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's great. We have, I've told you I'm going to give you the details. I'm coming on 20th. It's a trade, it's like a trade caravan. We are trying to cross, starting from Kampala, a road show, but majorly with traders, about 30 traders who are going to be navigating to see how easy it is to cross the border as a trader, and then also be in Nairobi to discuss and also buy some products which they trade, and then be able also to come back. But we are going to have a research on the team, on our travel team, to all note this, what are we going to find? And we are also, it's a project, but which is trying to practically find out how easy it is to trade between Uganda and Kenya, and also to travel from Kampala to Nairobi. And we hope with you, if all goes well, you know, we have many people. Peace is also part of the African Continental Free Trade. Most of the traders are saying, no, wait, we are not confirming because there is no peace in Kenya. So peace is also something which we must always be able to put in the equation of promoting this. So if it all goes well and there is stability, we shall be able to talk to you and see how can we engage on the Continental Free Trade area as a project. But yeah, we are also having other engagement with the stakeholders. For example, the Minister of Trade. We are going to have a very big event in Kampala in July, looking at how we could harness all the opportunities this tool and this agreement is coming with to Uganda. The major target is to see how we open up the border. We still have a border problem with Uganda and Rwanda. It is political, the ego, and also all the political kind of clout these leaders want. The Kagame and Museveni has been a problem to many traders in Uganda and in also Rwanda, Kigali. So we are going also to focus on that. How do we fully let the goods and services and people cross the Katuna border and also the border, other border points of Uganda and Kenya. So we are very, very live at this kind of agreement, and we believe it's an opportunity. And we as a think tank, we are taking pride in promoting and also working hard to see that it fulfills our mission of promoting a free and prosperous society as action for liberty and economic development. But we are also leveraging on it to see that we can be able to make a bigger pitch to our leaders, most of the president. Right now, as I speak, I'm sorry to say this, the whole country is crying of unemployment, and it is blaming the parliament, but the parliament is also looking at the populist side. They have just looked at the weapon of, I think you heard about the anti-homosexual bill, which they have passed, because they are seeing that as the #1 problem of the country, and the whole effort is there. But we want to shift the goalpost to be able to see the real problems of job creation. Why are we not creating jobs? And why are we not taking advantage of the South Sudan, which has a bigger market for food, and Uganda, we are an agricultural country. The Democratic Republic of Congo is still looking for how can they feed themselves. They have money. We are looking at Kenya. How do we help the Kenyan government with the food crisis in terms of trading? So we believe it's something which we are going to enjoy and also be able to work hard to see that we benefit from this instrument called the African Continental Free Trade Area. Thank you very much. And we hope this is one of the efforts to see that we make it practical.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John. Sorry for cutting you short. It's only that I have less than 2 minutes, before my time is up. Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to being part of your projects, and we hope that we can all contribute to the economic development of this continent. I don't know about you, from Lani. Might you be doing something, around the AfCFTA, as you share your final remarks, in less than a minute?
Yeah, in less than a minute, let me speed up. So one thing I didn't mention, Mogi, was the importance of law and order as well. We've got to get law and order in our countries. In South Africa, we have a very big problem of crime, right? If we have effective law and order as well, putting the mechanisms that really can counter and suppress crime, that will really help us. So look, as I said, it's the big opportunity. We've got to put in the structures and the foundations for everyone of ever. I don't want this to be a class war. It is, it's women versus the youth versus the adults. No. I mean, we've got to create an environment where everybody. Just today we are focusing on youth and women, but everybody must have an opportunity. Those who come up with great ideas, an opportunity to jump in and make an impact in the African continent.
Right. John, in 2 sentences, your final remarks.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank Liberty Sparks for giving us this platform to make our continent more better with a lot of opportunities, and also to be able to live peacefully in our countries or at our continent. What I would like to end with is that Africa, as we've seen it in the past week, starting from South Africa, Cape Town, going to Tunisia, coming to Kenya and other parts, Africa seems to be in the crisis. And if you look, at least you can agree with me that the bigger problem causing this crisis, it's lack of opportunities. And I do believe this, as we've said, this agreement or this instrument is categorically addressing how Africa can harness its own potential in terms of the young people, in terms of the women, in terms of the fertile soil it has, and in terms of the resources and also the talent and gifts. So I just request and implore everyone to put more effort in this agreement to see how best we can change our continent, not wait for 2062 as I hear some agreement, but we can do it every day, every week, every year, and every now and then. Thank you very much. I remain Mugabe John Socrates, the team leader of Action for Liberty and Economic Development, based here in Uganda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the saddest part of our webinars is we never really seem to have enough time to go, through each and every aspect of our topics. But I'm glad that we are making progress, scratching the surface when it comes to some of these issues. So yeah, thank you so much to our speakers for joining us today. And I also want to thank our listeners who've taken their time to join us and listen to us for a whole 1 hour, which is no mean feat. So thank you so much for joining us. Like I said before, the recording of this session is going to be available soon on our YouTube channel, Liberty Sparks. We are going to be sharing the link for that. So for you to be able to catch up on what the discussion was. Also, remember that we have a lot that we are doing as Liberty Sparks, in terms of publishing research and, articles and thoughts and, opinions around the after, that is for you to decide what that has to be for you. And yeah, we'd be glad to receive your contributions. And be able to feature them on website. So thank you so much for joining us today. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I hope that we can be able to get more time next time to engage further. So yeah, also be a lookout for our next webinar. We are doing these webinars on a monthly basis, focusing on the African continental free trade. And we hope that you can join us next time. So thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, I wish you all the best. Your activities that you are doing to promote free trade in Africa and economic development and prosperity. Thank you so much, and see you next time.